Head over to stretfordpaddock.bigcartel.com and check out the Paddock merch. And for a short time, you can get 20% off orders with 2 items or more using the code Paddock20. Go get on it.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Devils podcast, and joining me, it's like the old school. We've got the band back together. 3 of the old school full-time Devils when we were full-time Devils favourites. We've got Trevor Lynch. How are you doing, Trev?
All right.
We've got Doc Joshi. How are we doing,
mate?
Doc?
Yeah, all good, pal.
Good stuff. And we've also got, last but by no means least, Mr. John Shin, who's just got up because it's only 1:30 in the afternoon over there.
What's going on, Jay?
Good. I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's good, this, man. It feels like, I don't know, feels like it's 2017 or something. We're going to get right back here, right into it even. There was a documentary on last night at the time of recording. It was Anton Ferdinand speaking about what he went through when he was, let's call it what it was, when he was racially abused, and when John Terry said what he said to him in the football match against QPR against Chelsea, the abuse he got online as well with a lot of trolling and stuff like that. And he spoke about it. It was really candid. He was really open and honest. It was really emotional as well. He was crying at times. And, what amazed me is he opened up his heart. He spoke about the abuse he suffered on the pitch and off the pitch. And then even last night, he was still getting trolled. I noticed there was still some people who were having a dig. And the FA have put out a statement because there was, a little bit of criticism of the FA in the documentary about the way they handled the John Terry situation. They played excerpts of his John Terry's interview with the FA, which was it was almost like 2 mates chatting when he was interviewed. And Anton Ferdinand said when he was interviewed about it, he felt like he was the one that had done something wrong. And the FA have put out a statement which is very defensive. And I just wanted to get your take on it, you guys. You've all sort of experienced racism. You know what racism is about. It's still an issue in football. And last night just highlighted for me that, yes, we've got the Black Lives Matter movement and people are taking a knee and we are having these conversations, but it just seems like there's still a long way to go. Trevor, what's your take on it all?
It could be a program on its own, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I've done? I've been a professional football coach for over 30-odd years. Having the privilege of working in a professional game and the club I love, 20-odd years, Man United. I used to do a lot of work with Kick It Out. Have things moved forward? I've got to say, not really. If I'm, it's pessimistic. You want hope. In terms of when I say things have changed, when I was a kid, obviously going to the game, there's only a couple of black kids at matches, and you got the racial abuse, and you heard the racial abuse from your own fans to black players, etc., and you had to deal with that. I think that the game's done a lot in changing that. In terms of where that's not as frequent in grounds now. And when I say it's frequent, I said frequent. Remember, I'm not saying it's been eliminated, because it hasn't. Because unfortunately, sort of a small minority who have that mentality. It makes me laugh sometimes when you hear someone shout something racial, and then people look at him and go, "Well, what about?" I don't know, for example, what about Andy Cole? He's black, yeah, but he's one of ours. Do you know what I mean? So he'll always be there, I'm afraid. I think, it's endemic within society. And I think he'll always be there, and it does pass on to whatever, conventions of society it has, whether it be sport, whether it be in the office, whether it be politics, you know what I mean? The John Terry thing just really, really infuriated me. And I think the FA missed out on a big chance to make a massive statement there in terms of they should have sacked him. Terry should have got sacked from Chelsea. Suarez should have got sacked from Liverpool. And the scenario which I would have loved to have seen is that they could not come back into the Premiership for 2 years and via the Championship. So they couldn't come straight back into Chelsea or straight back into Liverpool. They'd have to go via the Championship and maybe have a season there and come back up again. You know what I mean? I just think we have this thing, footballers think they're in a privileged position. And they are in a privileged position, but what annoys me is that the law treats them differently. Any one of us, were to racially abuse someone in the street or or bring a case against, and you know, they'd be up in front of the courts, fined, whatever. I just think, you know, it's sad. It's sad. It's society. We just got to try and work harder and harder to get things going. But things have got to be. You've got to radical. I agree with people walking off the pitch. I've always advocated that. Walk off the pitch. You know, can you imagine in the middle of the World Cup and someone, you know, says something to a black player and, you know, millions of people, it's like, what's going on? He's walked off. The game stopped. You know.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that, you know, if I went into work and I was racially abused, I wouldn't stay in work. I'd be off. Do you know what I mean? I'd walk off. I'd walk out. Doc, Joshi, what do you make of it all? Because, you know, me and you've spoke on this podcast and other times before about racism in football. And, you know, like Trevor said, it's not going away. It's not going anywhere, is it? And you can argue that, okay, it's not as bad as it used to be, but we've still got the issue. And as long as there is an issue there, then things have got to change.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. They talk about I can't even remember what the slogan is now, but no place for racism, you know, zero tolerance, but it isn't zero tolerance, is it? Zero tolerance would result in hard line punishment when these things happen. You know, John Terry, Suarez there should be hard line consequences when you're found guilty, and in that kind of malicious way in which both of them were. So it's not really good enough from the FA, from FIFA, and whoever else is around. Obviously, football isn't going to solve racism, but it can do more for the racism that it's seeing within the sport, right? Especially with the players. Fans, it's more difficult to legislate for. And I think with the fans, we see a much more hardline sort of reaction. If someone is caught racially abusing a player, they are likely to be banned from the stadium for a significant amount of time. But why is that different for a player? I think it's even more important to be hardline with players, set that example, set that precedent. Just say, look, we're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to stand for it. It's not good enough. This is not what we want the sport to be about. And look, whilst things have got better, I don't think the benchmark was high. And I think even one bit of racism, if you see it, it's not good enough, right? And I mean, just speaking from experience, you know, even that one little bit one incident can have an effect, right? And it can influence the way in which someone goes about their day-to-day lives. And I think we've seen that with Anton Ferdinand. I think he mentioned a few things in a documentary last night about how he changed the way in which he approached things. Perhaps it affected his career, you know, all sorts. So hardline zero tolerance must mean hardline zero tolerance, not a few game ban here and come back in and that kind of thing. It has to be, and the clubs have to take that stand as well, right? So it just needs to be hardline. And we need people to stand up and take responsibility at that highest level. We're just not seeing it.
100%. John, in America, obviously, you know, you've had issues around racism, and we've seen, especially in sport, we've seen sport really take a stand or take an even. That sort of seems to have come from like Colin Kaepernick. And what have you made of the way American sport has taken that stand? Has it been effective, do you feel? And do you think that's something that maybe we can learn from over in England and perhaps are learning, because we're seeing a similar sort of protest, for want of a better word?
You know, I'm a lot younger than you three gentlemen here, so I guess maybe
lot. He has to get that in, didn't he? Not just a lot.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to kind of take a position from a more, I guess, younger perspective, because I think the Luis Suarez, Patrice Evra incident, as well as the Anton Ferdinand and Terry incident, was in 2011, and I was still a freshman in college. And at the time, to be quite honest with you, at the time, I wasn't all that concerned with the idea of racism. And the reason why I say that is because in New York, when we were young, you know, growing up in a melting pot with, you know, 4,000 kids in my school, I had 35, 40 kids per classroom, right? We were literally jammed in like a can of sardines. Nobody had to worry about anything. It was such a rough world that the idea of racial abuse and whatnot, it was so I don't want to say this word because I want to be careful, but to a certain extent, it was normalized. So when I first heard Anton Ferdinand and John Terry and all that situation, I was like, is it that bad? Is it something that we should really be highlighting? But obviously, of course, over the years, I've understood and learned that, of course, it's a bad thing. And I've also came to terms with the fact that I've been being racially abused all of my life since I've been here in America. And I just didn't really think it was that big of a deal until I started getting older. And the more I was able to comprehend life and the more I was able to understand things in life, I realized, oh shit, this is bad. And you asked me, is this taking effect in America with respect to sports and culture here? And to be honest with you, I can't quite say for sure if this is a significant step forward. I think it's a significant step in terms of deciding whether or not it's the right direction. I can't necessarily tell you for sure if society or sports culture as a whole has taken that initial first step forward. All that stuff like Josh mentioned about kick it out in England here, lots of people are, now a lot more public about their display of support for the Black Lives Matter movement, for battles against racism and things of that nature. But I don't know. I think something else and something a bit more wholesome, a bit more hearty needs to happen, because as you've seen, and again, I don't want to get too political, but as you've seen over the past even decade or so, the idea of racism, the idea of all this hatred and upfront anger has been so normalized that it just almost feels like New York maybe for people in New York, especially New Yorkers, kind of got the sensation that like, life is fucked anyway, right? Just the people out here, everybody's hard, everybody's like, it's literally a jungle, and it almost feels like the world entirely was kind of like brought into this spotlight of nobody cares about anybody at this point. And I think racism is at the forefront of that battle, and I think we need to do more. I think the idea of not punishment, but the idea of taking responsibility as a society for people's actions against, people of color, against minorities and things like that. It needs to be portrayed in this idea that it's worse than it actually is.
No, 100%. I get where you're coming from. I just will mention as well, we've had the incident with Edinson Cavani, because I know a lot of people who watch this or listen to this will be like, oh, well, you go on about Suarez, because we do have fans, believe it or not, from other clubs that listen and watch our videos, and they'll be like, oh, well, you're on about Suarez, and sorry, what about Cavani? I think you can see the differences there, and I think that, your statement that Edinson Cavani and the club have put out, is the sort of statement they should have done. Yeah, he didn't realise he's made a mistake in the language he's used, and the club have come out and said that. And I think that's completely different from willfully abusing someone on a football pitch. Also, we're talking about sort of, Trev, you mentioned about fans and being in the ground and the sort of abuse that you heard when you was going to football years ago. And I used to hear it when I was a kid. And my dad wouldn't take me to games on the weekend, certain games, because he didn't want me to hear certain things. He used to take me to some of the midweek games in the cups, especially. And as I got older, I heard it less and less frequently. But my point is, do you think that the culture is changing amongst fans as well? Do you think fans are more likely to call it out and more likely to say something? Or do you think that social media has perhaps made it a little bit worse, because now you've got that faceless attitude of people who can get on a keyboard and say things sort of, not to someone's face, but almost behind the back? Where do you think we are as fans with all this?
Can I just address the Cavani thing?
Of course you can, mate. Please do.
Should be banned.
Right, fair enough. I was on Howson's Brew last night. Me and him were talking about it.
Listen, because it's the rule, right? And that wash about where in Uruguay they use that rhetoric. Well, that's in Uruguay. You're in the Premiership. You're in the Premiership. You know the rules. And for you see, this is, we'll go for the tangent a little bit. You see, that's why I don't agree with this BME acronym from the government, led Barmy, BME, whatever you want to pronounce it. So how do Uruguayans look at themselves? Are they not black? Because if you say to someone who's white, what is Cavani? They're not going to say he's white. Well, what is he? What are people from South America? Whether they're Brazilians, whether Paraguay, Uruguay. So, when Suarez trying to give that about, it's what we use. It's a normal, like John was saying, it becomes normalized. Well, it might be normalized in Uruguay, but this is the Premiership and we have rules for that. And if you say that N-word, that connotation coming from a white person has different connotations and the ramifications of that word to a black person saying it. I don't agree with black people using it. I teach racism in schools and I will not allow it to be used. You know, people talk about reclaiming this word. No, that will never be a positive. It'll always be a negative. So, unfortunately, Cavani, like we say, yeah, okay, there might be a case, he's done it as a term of endearment. But I used to get the questions. There's a certain footballer, I don't want to go into it, but a certain legend footballer at Man United who used to use that term, right? Not as a derogatory term, but he loved rap music and he'd give it that. And when he'd meet you and greet you, he'd yo, what's happening, mate? And it was like, for me, straight off the bat, no, stop. Well, other black players would accept it from the white guy. Well, I wouldn't. Because like I'm trying to say to him, no. But you also got to understand from a white perspective how they say, well, how come then black guys can use it as a term of endearment? How can Kanye stand at Glastonbury Festival and get 100,000 people all chanting the N-word in Glastonbury? And then when you go into the school and you hear it and you go, stop, and you go, yeah, but sir, Kanye West said it's okay. Do you know what I mean? So, unfortunately, listen, it's sad as well because you know what, Cavani's coming on point, innit? He's coming on point. Do you know what I mean? And now suddenly I'll be faced with him getting banned. But it's rules, I'm afraid.
No, I know me and you were talking about yesterday, Trev, and you know, I agree with what you're saying. And you know, rules are rules, and he's got to be worded up on it. He has. He's got to be worded up on it and say, you know, these are the rules. You can't use that. And I get where you mean. I always find that sort of BME stuff confusing and somewhat sort of muddies the waters a little bit at times when it's like, what does that mean and who does it apply to and how do people sort of relate to that? Going back to the thing I was saying about fans, Josh.
Excuse me 1 minute.
Yeah, it's all right. Trevor's got his dog barking in the background and it's not just an episode of Crufts that he's watching. He's actually got a dog. I'll wait till he comes back, and then we'll pick up on that because it is an important point. I'm glad that Trevor's addressed the Cavani thing as well because you know what, you don't just want to be tribal with it all and say, oh well, you know what, whenever it's our player who's involved in something like that, we'll just back him relentlessly or constantly, no matter what. And when it's an opposing player, we'll attack them. You have to be, you know, try and be objective about it and say, yes, obviously there's a difference between what Cavani and Suarez did, but rules are rules, and he's brought them.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I think my point was zero tolerance, right? So you've got to treat everyone the same in terms of that. But I think you can see that there are differences. He's either an idiot, which I think is what he is, or because he doesn't know that you shouldn't be using that word here in the UK. And if he does know, then he's an even bigger idiot, right? So he needs to be banned and teach that lesson, but then move on because the guy he said it to is a mate of his or something. I don't know, but so then just move on, right? It's punish him, accept it, take it on the chin. There's none of these T-shirts and whatnot. You know, we accept it. He should be draw a line under it, and then if he does it again, then it's even more hard line, right? But I think you can see there is a clear difference between what he did and just straight abuse on a football pitch to an opponent. That they're worlds apart, I think.
Yeah, it's important what you said there as well, Joshi. I think for me, one of the deflating things about these issues that we keep having is the response from certain clubs, from certain organisations. You know, I mentioned the Anton Ferdinand documentary last night. Anton Ferdinand, right, joined this documentary and, you know, I'll give him a round of applause. He was so open, so honest. He was crying. At times, he was getting emotional. He was being, you know, admitting about how it made him feel in front of his wife and things like that, the abuse he suffered. He opened his heart out. And the FA have put a statement out today that made me want to throw my laptop out the window, because it was just more or less very defensive. They were talking about inaccuracies. They were having a dig at kick it out. And it seemed tone deaf, you know, after that documentary, to then come out with a statement that's so defensive and not really attacking Anton Ferdinand, but attacking kick it out and saying, well, there's inaccuracies in this documentary. And I think this, for me, is the problem. Part of the problem is the response we have from clubs. You know, the statement from Liverpool at the time, Chelsea, when they reacted in the way they did. And you just think, you know, as a club, I want United, which is what they've done, to come out with a statement and just say, yeah, this isn't right and we need to deal with it and, you know, make sure this doesn't happen again. And I think that can be deflating as a fan sometimes when you see these organisations, clubs or whatever, just not getting where we're coming from.
Well, this is sorry, John, when you just speak. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I'm just saying that's what, and the doc's right. It's exactly what he's saying. You know what I mean? There has to be action. Now, like you said, it's obviously as an intelligent being, you know whether it's things are being said on a derogatory term or whether there's a term of endearment. But the word is outlawed. It's banned. Right now, you know when clubs or like the FA have gone now and made that statement. What inaccuracies? The inaccuracies is on their perspective, not on the victim. The victim was Anton Ferdinand. Don't try and switch it and make him be the victim. You know, Chelsea's actions. What about the scenario when they're in the YouTube, not the YouTube, on the tube train in Euro somewhere in Paris, and a load of Chelsea fans took and won't let a black man on the train going, "We are Chelsea," and F this and F the N word. And you're like, what? You know, at the end of the day, right, it's got to be, like say, zero. It's got to be hard and sharp. We cannot, even like Man United in this scenario, we cannot as a club go, oh, well, it don't matter. Because then you're condoning John Terry, you condoning Suarez. You can't do it. You can't do it. And when it's one of ours, and, you know, for me, you know, when people talk about Suarez, Suarez would be great at United, he would be fantastic. I would never, ever go into Old Trafford again if he came to United. I would never. 100%. I would never. Now, that's not disrespecting the fact that he's not a great striker. Of course he is. Do you know what I mean? But no, as a man, no. JT, no. Not interested. Not interested in anything you can say. Do you know what I mean? And for Ashley Cole, please, how can you be 5 yards away from John Terry, not hear what he said? But yet, you're 50 metres away from Anton and you heard him. Come on, man. Well, we know the different dynamics of that. It's just, the whole racism thinking, just, it's an awkward thing we have to discuss, right? It's a horrible conversation we have to have. But unfortunately, it will resonate within the people in charge of the game, the people in charge of clubs, because they know they've been around people who've used them terms and not said anything. And the difference from being, you know, non-racist to anti-racist is a massive.
You know, there is a famous comedian by the name of Dave Chappelle. And
I love Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Who's that, John? Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
Dave what? Dave Chappelle.
There's a famous. You hear about that famous footballer who died earlier this week? What's his name? Diego something. Yeah, you heard about him?
No, never heard of him. Go on, John. Tell us about this Dave Chappelle. Was it?
Well, Dave Chappell.
First, rest in peace, Maradona. But yeah,
how old do you think we are, John? Do you think we're like
I know, right?
That was a joke.
We know who Dave Chappelle is.
John, I just think we know who Richard Pryor is or Bernie Mac. You know Bernie Manning, John?
No.
There we go.
Got that on me.
Well, youngsters these days, eh?
Well, I brought up Dave Chappelle because Dave Chappelle in his 2 specials ago, he said, and I think I spoke to Jay about this in the political podcast that we had. And again, I don't want to get too much into politics, but the reason why I want to bring this up is because Dave Chappelle said, in America, everybody's racist, and in China, everybody's Chinese. And you can take that in many different connotations, many different contexts and whatnot. But basically what he's just trying to say is that we're in a situation here where that kind of racism is obviously normalized and obviously brought out into limelight now. But there are certain situations across the world where it's not really that big of an issue, right? So for instance, like for me, being a Korean American myself, when I go to Korea, that statement Dave Chappelle says holds 100%. Everybody in Korea is Korean. You don't really see non-Korean people, right? So for maybe just to play a devil's advocate for Cavani, in his situation, that term that he used was so normalized. And again, like for us, like we were saying, I get the fact that, there was no malicious intent, right? If you're on the pitch and you're trying to be abusive, then sure, then I get it. But he was just using it as a term of endearment. I get it. However, I'm 100% also in the same boat here as Trev here. If we have to make sure we start at zero, and if that means laying out punishment with no exception, then so be it, right? He's come out and said that, you know, he, as soon as he understood that this could be misconstrued, he took it down. That's fine. I still accept it. I think he did the right thing and whatnot, but punishment is punishment, right? We all have to start at zero somewhere. And while I understand where he might have come from, what his cultural connotation might have been, like where he raised, where he trained, all of those things aside, I get it. But at the same time, if we're going to try and make sure that we root this thing out, the biggest step forward for me is starting at zero. And that zero means zero tolerance. And we just have to make sure we're equal on all front in that respect.
100%, John. Well said, mate. Well said. And I'll make sure I'll check out that comedian you mentioned. What's his name? Dave Chappell, was it? He sounds like he could. Darren Chapman, that's the one. I'll just roll that down. I'll Google him after I've finished watching me Charlie Chaplin videos and the Laurel and Hardy.
You know what? I did come across this comedian recently on a little known show. You may have heard of it. I don't know. You might not have done. Saturday Night Live. It's a fairly new show in the US.
Sounds like some of the kids watch.
He did his opening. You know, the monologue. They do the opening monologues. He was a guest host. He covered a few topics, and he was very, very good on that. That's worth a watch, I think. I can't remember it, but yeah, you know, there was some really good stuff in that.
He is quality, Dave Chappelle. Some good points there, guys, and you know, it's a topic that will no doubt rumble on, both, you know, for the positive way and a negative way as well. Just before we move on as well, we've got a bit of a push and a giveaway on the channel. We've been doing a members giveaway over Christmas where you can win a PlayStation 5, you can win a load of merch, you've got t-shirts, you've got Football Manager, you've got Andy Cole's book, all this sort of stuff. Yeah.
What's this, PlayStation 5? I can't even...
PlayStation 5?
I don't know. Yeah, apparently the kids are into it. Don't ask me. I still go on my Game Boy or my Atari. But if you sign up for a membership...
That's for John, that we don't know about them.
We don't. John will know that. John's probably got the PlayStation 5s and all the rest of it. We're still playing Tetris on the wireless.
But if you are jump Super Mario,
Super Mario, mate. Now you're talking. Now you're talking my language.
He said, "What's the thing you can jump?" And that was Super Mario.
Frogger. Pac-Man. Jeff's got a Pac-Man arcade machine in his house. But yeah, if you join up as a member, we've got loads of stuff we're giving away over Christmas. Got loads of t-shirts, all that stuff. PlayStation 5 is up for grabs. You can win one of them. So check it out. We appreciate your support as well. We are fan-owned and we appreciate all the support we've had. People sort of mucking in the membership. And there's loads of content as well for membership. Stuff you get on here as well. And we've got a few extra behind-the-scenes stuff. So make sure you check that out. The link is below. And I think you can join next to the subscribe button. Moving on to the Champions League. United playing PSG this week. Now, I've got a question, and this may sound like the most ridiculous question ever, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can United win the Champions League? Trev, I'll start with you.
This, you know, for me.
Go on. Hit me with it, brother.
This is the long wind up to yeah, we can.
Listen,
because we're all United fans, right?
I think the Champions League, right? I think the Champions League should go back to where it was. One stage knockout, boom, forget it. Forget all these group things. And I also believe, radical, that the Champions League should just be for champions. Going back to it. I know.
Yeah.
I know what you said.
Trev will never be in
it. You're showing your... John Shin, have you ever watched has John Shin ever watched a Champions League with only champions in it? That's what I want to know.
No,
he's not.
I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest.
Definitely showing our age.
It was called the European Cup then, John. And you used to pay 2 and 6 to get in.
Liverpool played Marbella or someone like that. Anyway, I don't know, mate. I don't know. You know, the thing is, it's like, listen, whether like you're Ollie in or Ollie out or whatever, he's the manager. You just got to stick with him now. I think United are probably trying to go down the road of like a Fergie scenario, but there's no honesty and transparency. I think if we stuck with Fergie for 7 years until he won something, if they're going to do that with Ollie, fine, but let us know as fans. Let's say, right, this is what it is. Right, bang, come out, make a statement. Don't just say it's about we're behind him, because that gives shields of the old vote of confidence, vote of confidence thing, and within a week they've gone. So just come out and say, right, this is the scenario. We stuck with Ferguson for 7 years. We're sticking with Ole. Those of you who don't like it, tough. Those of you who do like it, fair enough. But it's about Ole's team selections. I mean, why the hell he didn't produce the same team last week as we started off in the Champions League? I don't know. But can we win it? Who knows? Over to you, Doc.
Yeah, the reason, Doc, I'll just qualify. The reason I asked that, right, is because obviously the obvious answer would be no, we can't. There's much better teams in it than us. But there's two things. One, I think if you look historically in the Champions League, the best team in Europe doesn't always win the Champions League. Chelsea finished 6th in the Premier League, won the Champions League. Liverpool finished 5th, won the Champions League. Porto, when they knocked us out in 2004, weren't the best team in Europe, in my opinion. Maybe even Inter in 2010 under Jose, you could argue there were better teams in it than then. That's debatable. So I'm just thinking, in a tournament, I know it's not the old school tournament that Trev wants, but you've always got a puncher's chance. And I think on our day, United have shown we're capable. I know we don't have our day consistently enough. So I just thought, should we not be in this competition thinking, you know what? We can win it and we should be aiming to win it, or have we got to be a little bit more pragmatic?
No, I think it's a second. We should always aim to win the competitions that we're in, right? That's just the club that we are, right? That's how we should be. That's the mentality of the club. Every match we go into, we should be aiming to win. Obviously, we can't win every single game, but that's the attitude that we should have in the team, and we should be going with confidence into these games to do that. But like you say, look, we beat PSG, and it was a good performance. It wasn't like the last one where Rashford's penalty. That was a bit of a smash and grab. They had a few. They were on us quite a bit. There was the penalty was a little bit, let's say, fortunate. This was a really good away performance in Europe, and we were the better side, and we deserved the win. And then Leipzig, that is, the scoreline speaks for itself. They're both quality sides, right? And we've more than matched them. We've outplayed Leipzig, and we've been the better side against PSG. So I think on our day, we can beat the best sides, and we have beaten them, right? I think under Ole, we've beaten all the top teams. I don't think we've not beaten Liverpool under Ole yet, but they're the only kind of big side we haven't beaten under Solskjaer. And that includes several consecutive wins against City, Chelsea, so it's not like we don't have the quality. And when you look at the team, individually, the quality is there. I think with the Champions League as well, these are the better sides in Europe. They will be more likely to come at us, right? Which is, I think, suits the players at the moment a bit better than when we are under pressure to go and dictate the game. So again, I think there's always that chance when you've got players like Bruno Fernandes, Rashford can turn something, Martial can turn something. Now we've seen Cavani can turn a game round. We have quality throughout in the attacking areas. So there's always that chance, but it just depends on, can we get a bit of a lucky draw? And then on the night when it really matters, are we on it? And if it happens, if that kind of lines up, then you could have a Liverpool situation where they won it and didn't. They were pretty poor, actually, in the grand scheme of European football, and Chelsea similarly. So, yeah, I don't see why not. It's obviously not a prediction before this gets clipped up and posted all over the place. But, and as a fan, I'm hopeful. And I think there's reason to be optimistic.
So there you go. Joshi says we're definitely going to win the Champions League. You heard it there. Everyone who missed that bit, he said 100% nailed on. We'll win it. Because we're the best team in the world, which I think is a bit of a bold statement, but fair enough. He's an optimist. John, as a fan, going into this competition, do you look at it thinking, yeah, you know what? We've got a bit of a chance here, or do you just think it's one of those where you're like, if we can get out of the group, then, I'm not happy with that, but, I'll take it.
Well, I'll just come out flat here saying I don't think Manchester United can win the Champions League. But with that being said, like Joshi said, I think Joshi used the perfect word. I think the word here is pressure. I think this team right now, they're probably under a lot less pressure to deliver anything than any other Manchester United teams, simply given the fact that we've been so poor for so long, and we've been so inconsistent for so long that as fans, we've almost kind of lost this hope that, maybe we could do it. But if there's any platform to do it, it would be in the Champions League, right? It is the place of unpredictability. It is the place of comebacks. It is the place of magic, and that's where you can do it. So while I can sit here and tell you that Manchester United cannot win the Champions League, I can also sit here and tell you that it is very unpredictable, like Joshua was saying, and we're just kind of like sitting here wiggling around. But it is, I think this team should not be pressured to win. I think we as fans also have a duty, and I maybe I'm also kind of contradicting the fact that, you know, we shouldn't even be doing a podcast discussing their potential at winning a Champions League, because I just think adding pressure to this team in this age is just not helping and adding to them. And one of the reasons why we probably need to do we talk a lot about Ole in and Ole out, and obviously we'll probably discuss that another time. But I think Ole has less pressure in the Champions League because he has something to lose. There isn't any sort of expectation for Ole to deliver, and I think it'll be the perfect place for Ole to deliver something as strong and concrete as the Champions League, and sort of cement his position as a manager to stay, as opposed to somebody who's, you know, being thrown around words like, you know, got the job because of his connection to Manchester United and you know, his failings at Cardiff and his lacking in experience in managerial time. So with respect to that, I just think Manchester United, it's gonna be tough, but again, it is a place of unpredictability. So I'd love to see that happen.
The thing is, the question you got to ask yourself in the end is, do you see this United side beating the likes of, I would say, Bayern Munich, right? I could see us beating Barcelona as they are, Real Madrid as they are. They're not the force that they used to be. And we have beaten City. I can see us beating Liverpool there, especially with Van Dijk now, you know, that long-term injury. It's Bayern Munich is the one where I look at and I go, do I see us, even on our best day, beating that side? They're just a machine, aren't they, at the moment? And that's the difficulty. So, but still, everybody else in Europe, there's no other kind of team in Europe where I go, on our best day, we wouldn't beat them. It's only Bayern Munich where I think they've just got so much quality in every position.
And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I don't want to talk about this age crap, but I've always
Here we go.
I've always enjoyed a Manchester United performance more when we deliver on a spot where we're more of the underdogs, where we're sort of where we have all the hate, where we have all the bullshit, where we have all the bull crap against us, and we somehow come up with a victory. I think it tastes tenfold sweeter. And I think the Champions Place is the perfect place to do that. So, like, you know, Josh, you mentioned, Bayern Munich, of course, they are a machine, and their quality output is absolutely insane. And it's just, I don't even know how that's possible. But for a team like Manchester United, of course, we have these flaws and whatnot, but I think there could be magic. I know I'm the one out of all four of us that Manchester United will not win the Champions League. But here,
and now you're coming round to it, John.
Now you're coming out of Josh's way of thinking.
I didn't say we'd win it.
I didn't say that either.
You never know. Going to what Doc says. You see, on the day, like you said, we can beat anyone. Let's go back a couple of seasons, right? When Ole first taken in, right? And like you said, with the Rashford thing at PSG, we were going to that game without Pogba, you know. And everyone was going, forget it. We're going to get hammered. We've won the game without Pogba. So to me, the red flag went, do we really need Pogba in the side then? And subsequently, going on to that, because he's a different scenario, we won't talk about him, he's a different subject. But going on to him, we have won important games without him. And what we've added to the side, in terms of Bruno, Cavani, Van der Beek, I mean, don't get me on him, why he doesn't start every week, I don't know. But we have that, like you say, ability, like John says, when everything's against us and if people are down, you know, giving us this shit, you've not got a chance, and we come up trumps. So who knows?
But equally,
do you think we're going to win it?
Equally, though,
nailed on. You know what's just giving me a lift as well is that Joshi said that Van Dijk's got injured. I didn't know about that. I've not read that anywhere. I'm surprised.
No.
I'm surprised no one spoke about that. Yeah.
No, I was going to say equally. Having said all of that, we could easily go into tomorrow's game and then next week and just get battered, right? That's just,
we could.
that's just this team at the moment is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I want to get onto that because you've all mentioned it. Trev mentioned it earlier and you mentioned it as well, sort of Ollie and backing him and where we're at, because I go back to the Southampton game. And listen, I know social media doesn't tell you a full story, but we've seen it quite a lot where it's like at half time, Ollie out, he's got to go, he's inept, he don't know what he's doing, he's clueless, the Norwegian PE teacher and all that garbage. And then at full time, it's like, oh, actually, do you know what? Maybe Cavani's the one and all this sort of stuff. And I just feel, do we need, like, as fans, as a club, whatever, to just say, right, at least no matter what, give this guy to the end of the season and just get behind him a bit, because it just seems, I know all clubs have this, every team has this, but it just seems United week in, week out, it's like 1 minute we beat Leipzig and it's like, oh yeah, maybe Ollie is the right man. And then, we'll go and lose to Arsenal or whatever. And it's like, oh, we've got to get rid. And it just seems to be, I don't know whether the players are aware of it or whatever, but it just seems so counterproductive. And I think, do we just need to say, you know what? Let's stop this nonsense and just get behind him till at least the end of the season, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah,
anyone, go on, Trev.
I think whoever manager comes in. Listen, I didn't like Van Gaal. It's well documented. I was a Jose man. Do you know what I mean? You're giving people time, they will do it. Jose's football wasn't attractive, but again, the board should have supported him. Anyway, that's another story. We know that. My only issue is now the board are just going to not give Ollie what he wants and give the fans what they want. What the board wants, not the fans. So they will go out and they'll buy so-and-so and they'll buy so-and-so. Do you know what I mean? And then does Ollie then become a bit like Stoichkov, Barcelona, when Bobby Robson was there? Bobby Robson was the figurehead. It's well documented, and the players picked themselves, didn't they, and decided when to play and when they didn't. Do you know what I mean? Scenario. I think at the end of the day, what you've got to do, we've just got to back any manager that comes in, and that's just it, and let him get on with it. But give him the time, because Ollie has been given time. He's been given a hell of a lot more than people whose CVs will blow him out the window, out the water, and they've gone. So we have to support him, win or lose, but let's have some transparency. Like I said, just say, this is the situation, like it or lump it. And as fans, you like it or lump it.
Joshi, just asking you quickly, how much do you think Pochettino comes into this? Because we keep hearing these rumours, and I think if Pochettino had a job, was like, say Real Madrid appointed him tomorrow or whatever, I don't think Ollie would be under as much pressure. It seems to me that there's a lot of the narrative centres around the fact that Pochettino is just, is the United manager in waiting.
Yeah, I've got to the point where I'm just, like Trevor says, you just kind of accept where we are and just wait until something happens, right? There's not much we can do at the moment. What I don't want to see, though, is, look, if they were to sack Ollie, let's say, and bring in Pochettino at some point, what are they going to do, right? You need to back the new guy then, and you need to, but they haven't done it with Ollie. It's not about backing them one summer when you've had such chronic underinvestment for a long time, then which is then supplemented by such poor spending post Fergie, like atrocious. Some of the amount of money we've spent on Dross. You can't then just think one summer's going to kind of change all of that. What we've got to do is give credit where credit is due for Ollie. I think ultimately we have to accept the fact that whether we like it or not, he is still learning in his job, and whether we think that's appropriate for a Manchester United manager is a different conversation. But he is the manager, he's still learning in his job, and he is improving in areas, and he's done a lot of good stuff. He shipped out some absolute donkeys, right? Like people that needed to go have gone. Has cleared out a fair amount off the wage bill. He's brought in, I think, for the large part, when I think about his transfers, they've been good, decent. I wouldn't say anyone is Dan James is maybe one where you put a question mark, but I think everybody else has done. We can see that there are good players there. So I think from a transfer perspective, is good. He's built you can see the culture and the spirit in the team is good as well. Otherwise, we're not coming back from a 2-0 down, right? We wouldn't come back and win that if the spirit was poor. So I think there's lots of positives. What he needs to do is bring in a little bit of help in the backroom staff in terms of proper elite level experienced coaches. I don't know who that is. I'm not knowledgeable enough, but someone to come in and really start, the fine detail. I don't think Ole sits down, or anyone in the coaching staff sits down with the players after a game and runs through the match and goes, this is what you did here, this is what you did there, this is not quite right. Because every single match, just look at it, it's so sloppy. The passing at the back, how many times have we seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka have to check back because the pass is just behind him, or the pass is just a little bit short, or it's a little bit too far ahead and it's not quite right? Yeah, and because people, they kind of get a bit sloppy. Maguire, Lindelof, because it's a sideways pass and it's a straightforward pass. It's not crisp. It's not into the right. They're not creating the right angles, and that's sloppiness. And I don't think anyone takes them through individually through the match. Next match, just watch the passing around the back. Even the simple passes, so sloppy. You end up with Matic facing his own goal instead of facing forward because the pass is slightly behind him, so he's got to check back. Things like that, someone who's got, let's say, Jose's eye for detail would come in, and I'm not saying bring Jose back, but that eye for detail, they could sort that out, while Ole can manage more like the overall culture, the kind of spirit, all that kind of bit, the philosophy, or whatever you want to call it. I just don't think a new manager is the answer, because the board aren't going to back him properly. So what's the point? I quite enjoy watching United at the moment, for the most part. We've got youth players coming through. We are trying to attack. We've got quality up front. I'm good at the moment. You don't want another manager to come in and just tear that up for the moment.
John, what are your thoughts on sort of the Ole situation? Do you think we need to show a bit more confidence in him, or do you think that there's still an element of the jury being out because of, like, I think Trevor was saying about his CV, or because of some of the results we've had, which, we're being brutally honest. I think, what was it, 3 home losses out of 4, or whatever it was, in the Premier League. You're going to get questioned when that happens. Or, where do you feel about all this, or where are you with this?
Well, I think Ole is a bit of a there are situations where, like, Ole is expected but also unexpected. Ole is we demand but we really don't demand. And what I mean by that is Ole is obviously, like, I think Joshi probably said it perfectly. He was talking about how, he's still, I guess, learning on the trade, and whether or not you agree or disagree with that aspect is a whole day for a whole nother conversation. But I think the reason why he gets so much flack is because he's not, and the word I'm going to use here is too young and hip for you guys, but he's not sexy. And I think that's the word here, right? Ole Gunnar
too young and hip for us. Hey, sexy.
I think that's the word here. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is questioned by all people because of his lack of sexiness. And what I mean by that is his lack in experience, his lack in accolades. So many of these things wrap around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You could say that, but John, that means that he shouldn't be expected to win anything. But you could also say that he's also expected to win things because of the reason why he got this job. And it's just this technicality, the reason as to how he got the job. Does he deserve the job? All of that surrounding us, the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer isn't a manager that wasn't sexy, gives him this position where, like, in first half, if we're losing, it's Ole out. But if second half we're winning, it's Ole in, right? And I'm going to finish that by talking about Pochettino. Yes, Pochettino is also the same as Solskjaer for me, because he hasn't won anything, right? He hasn't done anything really to prove. But some people can also say, but he's been to the Champions League final. He's done all these things. Great. I think as a man manager, I think as a coach, Pochettino is fantastic, but he hasn't really proven anything either. So replacing one with the other, what's that going to prove? The reason why people like talking about Pochettino is because he's been here and done it, and he's sexy. I'm going to keep using that word. I'm going to come back in another podcast. I'm going to say it again. He's sexy. And that's the reason why those people who want to have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer replaced are more happy with the idea of somebody like Pochettino, because he's sexy. And if you guys are listening, why don't you get in the comments and let us know why you think I keep saying the word sexy for Ole, and you can define that.
I think it's because that's another word we talk about. Start the program has been normalized in the USA, man. So everything's sexy.
Oh yeah,
that's right. I like that.
This bacon butty is sexy.
Do you think sexy is like a new word or something?
Yeah,
Like,
you said
we've
it to
never
us like
heard
you
the
were
word.
telling it like me. We've got kids, us lot, you know, and we know how we got them kids.
You know, my 7-year-old came home the other day and said it was talking about Minecraft or something, and he just goes, "That's legit," and I was like, "What the? What does that mean? What's legit?" And I thought you were going to say something along those lines, like I don't know, I don't know the terminology these days, but sexy.
You know what
Jesus.
sexy
What
is,
you got to
John?
remember is this. What you got to remember is that is the reason. See, Jay's very clever here. What Jay is on, he's got those older ones on, older than John. So then he's got John on the younger ones. That keeps us young, and we're down with the vocabulary, the vernacular. So,
Jay,
you know, we got John on. It's like John. When you start in future, you got to start saying, well, from a young perspective.
God.
We've learned some. I tell you what, I've learned who Dave. I've wrote this down. Dave Chappelle is, and I've learned there's a new word called sexy. I tell you what, John, it's been an education for us. Just one final topic before we get on to Wally of the week. Fans are in the ground in the Premier League, sort of. If you're in Tier 1 or Tier 2, you can have 2,000 fans, I think, in the stadium. Manchester at the minute is in Tier 3, although that can change on the 16th of December. So we're not having any fans at Old Trafford. Just want to get everyone's thoughts on that. Do you think having 2,000 fans, I know it's not a lot, makes any difference? Do you think this is fair? Do you think it's something that they should say no fans at all across the board in the Premier League? What are your thoughts on it? Trev, I'll start with you.
Oh, man. You know me, listen, the whole football thing, we're supposed to be in a global pandemic, right? So for me, we shouldn't have been on here talking about football. Football shouldn't be played. Why are we having international games? We've got a global pandemic. People are flying from country to country to play football. Okay? So for me, no, I'm sorry. You can say about you need to uplift this and you need to do that. But again, we fall into the realms of football being a thing within itself. So talk about fans. So if we're in a global pandemic, 2,000 fans mixing, what happens? Does that exasperate the problem then? Did the R8 go up again now after 2,000 fans? I know people are going to go, we shouldn't have been playing football. We shouldn't have been playing sport. I'm sorry. But just what it is. No.
The whole, you make a great point about, especially with international football, how many times have players quarantine or players have caught it, have got the coronavirus, they've been traveling and it's like, oh, well, this player's got it or this team or whatever. Joshi, obviously you're at the front line of some of this. What have you made of it all? Sorry.
Well, we did a pod about it, didn't we? I actually didn't think I thought this season would be at risk, right? Because I thought sensible people wouldn't start football and things like that until we really understood and what was going on and had a grasp of it. I mean, we've got football going on, and the rest of us are in some kind of soft lockdown. It doesn't make sense to me. And then you go from this soft lockdown scenario where we've tried to shut down the whole country to a point, right? Not as bad as the first one. And then straight from that, certain parts of the country will allow 2,000 people into grounds. Now, I think from a medical perspective, I just cannot get my head around that. It doesn't make sense to me. And it what's the point? I do understand, obviously, that, I mean, even just speaking about myself, the fact that football has been on has been a godsend, right? There's just because it's just nothing else to do. You've got to. So I love the fact that football's on, if I'm talking purely kind of selfishly, but it just shouldn't be on, if that makes sense. And let's not go on to international games. I had a rant about that the other day. The fans piece, I think the 2,000 limit, whatever, it's an arbitrary number, because it's going to help out the lower league clubs a lot more, right? I think that's probably a driver of it. For a club like United, 2,000 fans, what are they going to do? They're probably going to ship it out to the corporate boxes, right? The first choice or whatever. From a revenue perspective, they've written it off anyway, right? So it doesn't make a difference. I'm not too bothered if some clubs have fans in the stadium while United aren't allowed to because of the tiering system. At that, in a 70, 80,000 seater stadium, 2,000 fans in corporate boxes, it's not going to make a difference whether we're allowed them or not, right? So I'm not that bothered. I think given it's happening, there's nothing we can do about it. I think it's good that it will help out the lower clubs like the non-league and then those clubs that do rely on that income, match day income. So yeah, as much as a medical professional, I think it just doesn't make sense to me to allow this to happen. It is going to happen, but from a United perspective, I'm not that bothered because I was never going to be what. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to. I don't know how they're going to sort out who the 2,000 are. They're going to do a lottery on season tickets, or they're just going to go corporate boxes. I don't know, but either way, I'm not. Even if I was able to go, or rather, even if I was selected to go, let's say in some random lottery, I wouldn't, right? Because I'm not going to travel all the way up there and then travel back down, and with thousands of people around me in this environment that we're in at the moment.
No, I'm with you almost for a different reason as well. I think that, one of the things I like going to the game is seeing my mates. You have that camaraderie, you chat to each other, you're with each other, and being one of 2,000. It's not going to be me and a load of my mates. And even if it was, we can't. We've got to stand 5 meters apart or 2 meters apart, whatever. It seems fraught with problems. I don't really get it. John, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, well, here in America, they tried doing that, but now, as you can see, with the numbers going crazy, it's an absolute shit show. Especially here with respect to NFL, they are having to postpone games left, right, and center. They're relocating. Like some teams from California are playing in Arizona. Some clubs from Canada are playing in Florida. Like we're going through an absolute shit show just to watch a bunch of what's the word? Wanks? Just watch a bunch of like. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth.
That was like watching my grandma trying to swear.
Sexy. Your grandma trying to say sexy.
Yeah, we just watch a bunch of cheeky buggers.
I just wanted to make sure if I
should have said was John. We're trying to watch these guys playing. Well, they're just not sexy.
Wow. I should have done that.
You had a tap in there.
Sorry, my brain's kind of still half functioning, but it's an absolute shit show here. And what's the point of us going through that? And like Trev and Josh said, I thought playing football was a dangerous idea. I thought playing sports was a dangerous idea. I agree with Joshi. I actually went crazy on Twitter complaining about the fact that we're sending all these players across to play international football. I thought that was absolute disgrace. But bringing in fans, I think it's a bit of a more greedy position. And I'm not trying to get too political, but I think that the people that are suffering the most are the lower and middle class people who are actually having difficulties putting food on the table. And if 2,000 fans means bringing 2,000 fans that are willing to want to go to the stadium to bring them joy, then so be it. But if that's going to aggravate the numbers, then why are we doing that? There's more middle class families, small business owners that are suffering. Small clubs like Stretford, Paddock FC are also having difficult time training and doing all these things. I'm pretty sure I can just look at Stephen House's eyes and read all that. It doesn't make sense that we're just bringing, like Joshi said, like Manchester United bringing in 2,000 fans and charging them ticket prices and things like that is not that much. It's the lower leagues. It's the smaller businesses. It's the day-to-day people that are going to suffer more if the numbers get out of control because of things like this. And just to wrap that up, in the earlier days of the pandemic, I bring up Korea again, but Korea was one of the first countries to bring back sports leagues because they had such a great control on their situation. If you have a solid, firm grip on what you're going to do with respect to curbing this pandemic, then I'm sure, right? As fans, you're more comfortable about going out to the stadium. You're more comfortable about being able to be around other people at a safe distance and all of that. But if you have a control on the situation and you're going to do these things, then that's fine, right? It's an encouraging step forward. But if we're already shit the floor and telling yourself, oh, we're going to bring more fans because we need to boost the morale, I'll be like, get the fuck out of here. Who are you trying to convince? Who are you trying to sell, right? There's people dying out here. And of course, at the end of the day, it's about corporate greed and not corporate greed. It's about the idea of money you have to generate. It's the real world, John. Like you have to make money and people's jobs are like, I get all of that. However, if you're already shit the floor, you cannot tell me that you're going to bring in fans, and that's a great idea. I think we have to control it first, and then if we're moving forward, then we can say, all right, let's bring fans. We're going to return to the norms. But if you're out here fucking shitting all over the place and telling me, oh, we're going to return to the norms, clean up your shit first, and then talk about returning to the norms. Sexy finish right there.
Sexy finish. Shit the floor. I like it. Right, quickly to wrap up. Wally of the week. You know what a Wally of the week is? Who's the guy this week or the woman who's been a Wally? Joshi, I'll start with you. Who's your Wally of the week?
Well, while we were on the pod, I read the FA statement, so I'm going to say whoever wrote that statement in response to the Anton Ferdinand documentary.
You've took. I'll be honest with you. You took mine. I was going to say the FA for that statement is an absolute disgrace. Trev.
Yeah, just FA. I'll be doing the same thing while you were talking about it. I'm thinking, no, FA.
Tone deaf. Absolutely tone deaf statement. Whoever's written that wants. I don't want to see anyone lose their job, but they want sacking. John, basically, John, who's your Wally of the week, mate?
I was actually going to say the same thing, but I'm going to say I'm the Wally of the week for making fun of you gentlemen for your age. So I'm the Wally of the week.
Thanks to you, mate. We're all going to go and watch Dave Chaplin videos.
I'm also going to go and invest in some eye cream and wrinkle cream.
Yeah.
All
what
anti-aging.
Botox.
This
Botox.
word
P5
sexy means sexy. I've never heard that before.
Listen, I think the next podcast should be is Stephen Howson sexy for the manager?
That will be the shortest debate in the history of the internet.
That one's getting banned. It's going to get blocked immediately.
That'll be a 4-second podcast. Guys, this has been ace. I love this. It's been like a right reunion. I've actually had a really good time, and I don't often say that on videos. You know where to find these guys. Trevor's all over socials. They've got that way. You know where to find him. He's on Twitter, and he's always posting good stuff. Joshi, if I can get this right, there he is. No, there. Yeah, there. He's on socials. A lot of good stuff, not just the football stuff that we love as well. He's posted a lot of stuff around the pandemic. He's obviously a trained medical professional. He's a doctor. It's not just a nickname. He's not like Dr. Dre. He is actually a doctor. So
exactly.
He's always sexy doctor, Dr. Sex. And John Shin, the young whippersnapper there. He'll be cleaning the shit up off his floor, apparently. And changing his diaper. But no, it's been great, guys. You can find John Shin. He's the number one John Shin on the internet as well. He's on all over socials. Check him out. This has been the Devils Podcast. As I said as well, if you're not a member, check out our membership. We're giving away loads of good stuff. You got a chance to win a PS5, T-shirts, Andy Cole's biography, all that stuff. Check it out and join button. We appreciate your support. If you're not, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.